1,000 generations, Jedi Knights were the guardians of peace in the Old Republic. Before the dark times. Before the coronavirus. Here we are, Drew. We are in a, I don't want to say pre-apocalyptic world, but here we are. How's it going?
Well, it's not post yet, so yeah. I mean,
it's not post. It's not mid.
So technically, it is pre. Now, when it becomes post is the question. But for now, it's pre.
you could say it's the prequel to the apocalypse.
Well, we're not. Well. I mean,
keep theme with the show.
Yeah. Yeah, here we are, man. Well, here I am, and there you are, wherever you are.
Yes, we are doing this via Skype, which in most cases I like to avoid doing because I think it loses something from when we are normally together recording the show. But given the situation, given what's happening in the world right now, this is what we can do, and we still wanted to give you, the good listeners, a show, and this is how we're going to be doing it for time to come, and we're going to do our best to kind of take your minds off things, fill your head with fun discussion, maybe get some laughs out of you, and just kind of distract you for what little time we can talking about a galaxy far, far away.
Do you think they have COVID-19 in a galaxy far, far away?
I don't think so. But give it time; it'll get there. It gets everywhere.
Technically, Carl, technically, it already happened. I mean, it was a long time ago.
Yeah, that's valid. Obviously, early on in the show with things we're going to talk about, we can't avoid what's going on. We're going to have to talk about it. How was your week?
Dude, it's
how you doing, buddy?
Okay, well, in full, honesty, like I'm an introvert as it is, so it's not like I'm majorly disrupted in terms of like my social activity, but right. I'm also, for someone who hates people, I also don't want harm to befall people. I know that's a wild contradiction, but that's just kind of how I roll. I'm introverted, but I care. So this has been kind of wild, man. I'm definitely I'm a little on edge, but I'm doing my best to be cool about it, and I'm doing my part to hopefully be part of the solution and not part of the problem. So I'm not leaving the house unless I absolutely have to. I'm keeping things as tight as I can, and I've been working from home since Tuesday, and that's been a thing with the little dude, and mom's coming sometimes and not others. So the wife and I are both working from home, so we can both kind of keep an eye on dude when we can, but we're both working, so it's really difficult, and it's going to be an adjustment for sure to all this. So we will see. Yeah, but I'm hanging in there.
Yeah, I think in the plus column for all this, everybody's in the same situation. So I think there's a lot more understanding when it comes to like kids in the workplace.
I really hope so, and I'm not going to lie, dude. When I see, without getting too heavy into political leanings or whatnot, let's just leave that aside for a minute. But when I see people still trying to dismiss this or spin this to some kind of political advantage, or be flippant about precautions and things like that, like, dude, this is just not the time. This is very serious, and we want to eradicate it as quickly as we possibly can. And if you're gonna fly in the face of that and still go out to bars, which you can't now because everything's closed, but before that, like over the weekend and whatnot, when things were definitely escalating, like, just don't be part of the problem. Please be part of the solution. Be smart. be responsible, and this will all hopefully, end sooner. That's my plea to everyone.
It's okay. It's okay, Drew. Florida's got us covered. They're keeping the party going. Oh, Florida.
Have they learned nothing from Jaws? Close the beaches, dude.
Oh, man. I mean, you gotta, it's a serious thing. We're all dealing with it, but you also gotta be able to laugh about it at some point, because if you don't, you're just gonna go crazy.
I'm gonna try.
Yeah. So we were supposed to be seeing AEW this week, and what a show we would have seen.
Carl, all day I thought about that, dude, and then all day I was thinking about it leading up to the show. Like, oh man, we'd be in Rochester right now. We'd be, going to the game shop you wanted to go to. We'd be going to the Fifth Frame Brewing that I wanted to go to. We'd go to Dino Bar for dinner, like all of us, and then we'd go to the show, and it'd be so cool. And I was thinking about that all day, and that was it. That was like depressing enough, because I what a day we would have had. And then the show happened, and dude, for an empty arena show, they hit it out of the park. And not only did they hit it out of the park, the things that happened on the show very likely would have happened had it happened in Rochester to an audience, and we would have been there, and we would have seen one of the most eventful AEW shows to date. And it hurts me so deeply. Oh, man.
Yeah, it bites.
It's tough. Brody Lee from Rochester debuted on Wednesday. He would have gotten an insane pop, man. It would have been huge. Deafening. It would have been deafening had that happened in Rochester. And then at the end, dude, if Vanguard 1 would have made an appearance in Blue Cross Arena, that building would have exploded. And I know this because I popped hard off my couch and made a whooping sound in my living room to nobody when Vanguard 1 appeared on my screen. So I know for a fact that building would have came unglued at Matt Hardy's debut.
Indeed, but it was really cool. So now I'm somewhat, because of our discussions in the past, I'm somewhat familiar with Matt Hardy and like the broken Matt Hardy thing. And clearly, they're doing that again. The Brody guy, I'm not familiar with at all.
He's great. I mean, he's been on he's been in WWE for about between 5 and more than that now. 5, let's call it 5 to 7 years. Initially, he was like the top lieutenant of the Wyatt family stable, which for a time was like a really cool, hot stable. But Vince never gave him a real chance. He kind of put him in this box and basically wouldn't let him out of it, and that was it. Once he was in Vince's doghouse. Once you're in Vince's doghouse, you're basically forever in Vince's doghouse, and there's no getting out. So he's been kind of floundering. He was floundering for a while. Eventually, they just stopped using him entirely, and he let his contract expire, and he wanted out because he knew he had more to give. And now he's in AEW in a prominent role, a very prominent role.
Alrighty.
I think it's going to be fun. And just in case you're wondering, his ring name, Brody Lee, is influenced by exactly who you might think it is if you're a Kevin Smith fan.
All right. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so he's cool. He's a big dude, big man style, but very, very good wrestler. And he can cut a promo, even though he never got a real chance to do so in WWE, because they insisted that he speak in a Southern accent, and he is from Rochester, New York. So you can see why that was difficult for him.
Strong Buffalo ties emerging in the AEW.
Western New York is getting some representation, man. How about that?
Yeah.
And let's not forget that the Dark Order, or the Super Smash Brothers, as they were once known, are from Toronto, from Canada. So, the North, our whole little region here is starting to get some press.
Nice.
It's exciting. It's very exciting.
Nice. So, anything else from your week?
Not so much from the week. I mean, in anticipation for today, I've been playing a lot of Doom and Doom 2 on the Switch. And that is when I say Doom, I don't mean 2016. I mean classic Doom. And a classic never grows old, Carl. Those games are still impeccably perfect, masterfully designed, and still super fun. And Doom 2, I'm like, I haven't played Doom 2 in a long time, and I've been playing it recently. I'm kind of like I'm like at the halfway point in terms of levels. There's like 32 levels. I'm around level 16 or 17 now. Wow. Doom 2 is quite a different animal than Doom 1, despite being superficially the same. It's been a very eye-opening experience playing them again as a adult, I guess. Like, Doom 2 is like, they just started to get cute with it, I guess, where they were like, they kind of assumed that you knew the formula or you knew the game, and they just start spamming enemies at you in ridiculous situations and escalating amounts, which is like ridiculous. And some of the new enemies they introduced are just like unfair. So Doom 2 has been kind of an experience, but that's all been leading up to today, and I'm not even joking. Right before we got on to start the show, I did fire up Doom Eternal, and I got to play it for about 5 minutes. Only 5 minutes. But I'm so ready. You can quarantine me right now, sir. I have Doom Eternal and Animal Crossing in my possession, and I am ready to go. Bring it on.
See, you order offline, and that's all well and good. GameStop, who is making the argument that they are an essential service and should be allowed to remain open. If we're just allowing people to line up out the door for these two games today.
Now, look, to some people, games are essential, but let's be real, not really. Especially when you can just download them now, and I feel like a majority of gamers have that option. So whatever. But let's be honest, man. You've been in a GameStop, correct?
Yep.
No virus can survive in that BO environment, right? Like, I mean, they could be open. Fair. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong. You are not.
Anyway.
Alrighty.
How's it been going on your end?
We've been kind of self-quarantining since I think Saturday. When we saw where kind of the direction things were going, and just decided, we're gonna shut down and whatnot. I have an underlying condition. I am diabetic, so obviously there's a concern there. My father-in-law is extremely immunocompromised. He has a condition that causes that, and my mother's husband is also a bit has a condition as well. It's an underlying condition. So, concerns all around. So we decided, all right, let's lock it down. I think I've left the house twice since then. I had off work from Monday up until today. And so a good friend of mine was able to bring my work gear to me so I didn't have to go in and get it. I got all hooked up, and then it turns out I had to end up going back into work anyway to get a longer Ethernet cord, which is I'm staring at right now in my basement, just very shoddily routed through. There's a big pile of it laying by my feet. But it's getting the job done. Hopefully it won't be for too long. Working from home for the first time ever. I've always preferred to work in an office. I enjoy being around people and the coworkers and whatnot. So this today was interesting, even though it took me up until like 2 o'clock to actually get up and running. So yeah, we're quarantining, hunkering down, and just kind of riding this wave, doing what we can, doing the bowl dance, feeling the flow.
It goes up and down and around.
It goes up and down and around in so many different ways. So,
all right. Well, do we want to get the show underway here?
We're going to get underway here. So we had said that these episodes are going to come your way. The plan was once every other week, and that is still, for the most part, that is still the plan. We also recognize that obviously we're going to have a lot more time on our hands, given that we cannot leave the house or anything. So it is potential that you may get an episode 1 week after another. I'm not going to promise that, but potentially can happen. We will do what we can. So, but we've told you about our weeks. We've shared some stories. Dear listeners, if you want to share some stories with us, tell us how you're doing during this time. Send us some questions. Send us anything to be read on the show. Just to let us know how you're doing. You can find us at the following locations. You can follow us on Twitter at Devils Do Pod. You can like our Facebook page, facebook.com/Devils Do Pod. You can email us at thedevilsdopod@gmail.com, or you can find all these resources available to you on our website, thedevilsdopodcast.com. Drew, that being said, we do have some emails.
All right.
In order of which they were received. First up, Mr. Alan Waiters. Gentlemen, it has been eons. I mean,
we see Alan all the time.
Yeah, we saw him last Friday. He was there, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But in a show capacity, he's not wrong. It has been a while.
Yeah. I want to start off by saying I'm down 15 pounds since the beginning of Lent.
Alan, me too.
And I've been walking trails every day. Drew,
I'm serious.
To you in your pounds as well.
See, he knows.
He knows. Carl and Drew, what is the thing you miss most about our board game nights? Did you like Stone Age? What are your thoughts on worker placement games in general? So starting off first, what is the thing you miss most about our board game nights? I think actual physical in-person people interaction is right now.
Definitely. I mean,
it's kind of the point we got into board games in a lot of ways.
Yeah, like you can play online. We can do this via Skype, but like you said, it loses something. It's good. It's just good to be around friends and sit around a table and joke and share food, share drinks, and just be in each other's company. And then it's just different when you're not together physically. So that is missed.
All right, indeed. Did you like Stone Age, the game we played last Friday night?
I did, but I definitely feel that it's breakable. I'm not saying it's broken, but I feel like it's definitely breakable because Alan broke it. In my opinion, like he definitely lapped the board over us several times over. So there's clearly a mechanic in the game that allowed him to do so, and that I was a little unclear.
Well, I mean,
in fairness,
it was also our first time playing, and he's played numerous times before. So
true, but I think in playing the game where you have your paths to points and whatnot, I feel like there's really only one path to win. There's paths to points, but there's really only one path to win. And I wish I would have known that sooner.
Yeah. So I liked the game, but I wasn't super crazy about it because, and granted, this is an older game.
Yeah.
Much older game. And there have been games that have come out since this game that do what this game does, but a lot better. And the primary one for that is a game called Champions of Midgard, which I think you would really dig. It does a lot of what Stone Age does, but it adds some stuff in there, and it does what Stone Age does a lot better. It's got a better visual presentation, and it's a much, much better game than Stone Age. As far as thought on worker placement games, I really enjoy them. It's one of my more favored genres of board games. What about you, sir?
It depends. I don't know if I have a real favorite kind of game that I like to play.
Just like good games.
I just like good games, yeah, and that's just me in general with even video games. Like, I don't necessarily love any one genre. I just like a good version of any genre, really. As long as the game is good, I'm a happy camper.
Right. Cool. All right, Carl, what are you doing to pass the time during this quarantine? I have a 4-year-old, so I am watching him, and it's kind of cool because like he's kind of figuring out the controller now, so he's playing like Mario Kart,
cool,
and Splatoon, and he is very, very bad at both, but seeing him kind of like navigate it and figure it out is just kind of really adorable. But yeah, and again, something I didn't mention from this past week. This past week was William's birthday. We were originally going to go to the Strong Museum play in Rochester. We did not for obvious reasons. So we had to cancel his birthday party, which was coming up too. So I'm, you feel bad because you're a parent. You're really looking forward to doing this stuff for him, but at the same time, he's 4. He's not going to remember it.
I have memories from when I was 4.
Yeah, not super detailed stuff.
I guess not.
But yeah, just getting really quality time with the family, and trying to keep our minds off of the negativity and focus on positive opportunities that the situation provides, and playing some games, playing a lot of Call of Duty, playing Mario Kart, fun times. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. Drew, what is the thing you like most about Doom, and what is your favorite thing about Animal Crossing?
It's too soon, man. I just started playing Eternal tonight and Animal Crossing tonight. But in general, okay, I'll start with Doom. The thing I love most about Doom is it's just a frantically great game. It's historically speaking, thinking back to the original and even 2016, they're just really well-designed, well-made games that are heavy on the fun factor, and they reward you for they reward being aggressive, and they reward you for they're just fun. I can't say much more than that. Like, the controls are great, the game design is great, the level design is great, and it's just executed to a perfection. And then obviously, for getting into the minutia, for me, there's that heavy metal tie that's always going to be there. Like the original games, the soundtrack was MIDI versions of rip-off songs of Metallica and Alice in Chains and Pantera and whatnot. And cool, I knew that. Like, even as when I was a kid playing, I'm like, hey, that's this song by whatever, and I thought that was cool. And then in 2016, they made the soundtrack modern but still metal as hell. It wasn't ripping off any particular thing anymore, but it was original and awesome. I mean, I own it on vinyl. I love it. So it just speaks to me in a lot of ways. Like, it's like heavy metal the game. And it's super fun.
Yeah, Doom is one of the most metal things ever created.
Absolutely. And I'm only minutes into Eternal, and it's like, oh man, they're steering hard into like, we're gonna make a heavy metal album cover into a game. I'm like, okay. So it's that talks to me directly. Animal Crossing, however, is not that. Why do I love Animal Crossing? I think it's just again because it's fun, and it's just a whole different vibe. You play it at your own pace. You can just chill out and relax, or not. If you want to kind of be frantic and crazy, you can go nuts hunting for bugs and hunting for bells and doing chores and errands for people at a torrid pace, or just back off and whatever. I'll bring the package to the other dude when I get around to it. Get off my case, pal. And you're kind of, at least in the, each iteration, you have a little more control each game over the island itself, or the city, the town itself. So you can kind of craft a little world for yourself, and it's fun to decorate your house and make it look how you want and do that kind of thing. And it's just a totally different, it's a very chill vibe. And the fact that it takes place in real time is fun. When real things happen, like, holidays coming up, the game is going to do something that's like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. Like, it's the game itself is in on the spirit of whatever's going on. I like that. It's just a very charming experience. It's they're the yin and the yang, but together they are they're both great.
I mean, you could do all that stuff in real life, right?
Well, yeah, but
I'm just saying,
Carl. It's a lot easier in the game to make money. I'm just going to put that out
there. Doom, I get. Doom, Animal Crossing and stuff like I've just never really like. So it's life, but on a Switch.
Tom Nook pays out. Tom Nook pays out a lot more for bugs than anyone in real life would. So there is that.
Okay. Okay.
And you can decorate your house. You can decorate your house with a push of a button, as opposed to actually moving furniture around and painting and stuff.
Fair enough. So we close out with stay safe, guys. Also, a shout out to J. Gelsomino.
Always.
So thank you very much for that, Alan. So our next email is from friend of the show, Mr. Tom Fenzel. Welcome back, guys. Happy to hear your voices again, and on to my favorite topic, Star Wars. My question has to do with the Nintendo Switch. Right now, there are sales going on for some Final Fantasy games, Octopath Traveler, and the Trials of Mana. What should I spend my hard-earned quarantine money on? Thank you, Tom Fenton.
Wow. So in terms of the Final Fantasy games, I don't know what's available on. Well, hang on. On Switch, on Switch, I think 7, 8, and 9 are available on Switch right now.
10 and 10 too.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
Yep.
For me, speaking only for me, 7 and 9, I think, are definitely worth your dollar. Go for it. And it's. I should also note, I did download the 7 remake demo on PS4, by the way, and without getting too deeply into it, I don't know how I don't really know how I feel about it. I know what they're going for. I don't know that I like it. I don't know that I like the actual game of it. The way they change the combat and whatnot. It's a little weird. So anyway, without getting too deep into that, you can get Final Fantasy VII OG, or the PC version anyway, for the Switch right now, and that's still a classic to me, and I still love it. So. In terms of the Octopath Traveler and the Trials of Mana, Octopath Traveler is I want to love it more than I do. I want to be very clear. It's great, but it doesn't quite do what I wish it did in all the right ways. So
it doesn't bring it all together in the end.
No.
And you really, at some point, like, you're playing it, when you first start playing, you're like, oh, this is so great. The setup of the game is great. The visuals are fantastic.
Yeah.
The control is great, but as you're going through these stories, at some point, you're wanting them to start to come together.
Right. And they don't. They really don't. it's like it's 8 individual stories, and there's very little overlap or interaction between the characters at all. And that's kind of a bummer. Maybe that's a matter of expectation to a degree, but like you said, like the presentation is so great. The gameplay is fantastic. The combat system is great. All that visuals, fantastic. But the actual story and delivery and stuff just doesn't get to anything in any real way, and that's a bummer. Trials of Mana, well, that really is up to you. Secret of Mana, the OG, is a classic, and it's in that Trials of Mana. So, if it's on sale right now, just for that alone, buy it. And I'm pretty sure, I'm not positive, because I actually didn't get Trials of Mana. I think, is Seiken Densetsu 3 included in that?
I'm not sure.
Let me pull it up right now. Come on. Where's my... Just tell me what's in the box. Oh no, it's a whole new game. Oh crap. I have no idea. I have no clue about Trials of Mana whatsoever. Take back everything I said about Secret of Mana. If you can get Secret of Mana, go for it. Trials, I have... I don't know. Trials comes out on 4/24, so maybe I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I would say, like, it all depends on what you played previously. If you have never played any of those previously, Tom, then Final Fantasy VII is the way to go. I mean, that's something that should be experienced by every gamer. If you have played the Final Fantasy games previously, I would go for one of the new stuff, either Octopath or Trials.
Oh, the collection of Mana is available for the Switch. Maybe that's what is on sale right now. Yeah, it is. Oh, it is on sale. Wow. Yeah, buy that. The collection of Mana, definitely buy that, because... Oh, I see what they did there. Yeah, I'm going to go buy Collection of Mana, because it has Secret of Mana on it, and it has Trials of Mana, which is Seiken Densetsu 3, which is the sequel to Secret of Mana that was never released in America, but now is with an English translation. Yep. Tom, buy that.
Okay. Sure. That works. Normally, I would say, this is the part where I'd say, Drew, you just bought 2 new games. When are you going to have time to play this Mana game?
It's going to be a while. It's going to be, but you know what? It's on sale. It's going
to be a while.
I'll buy it now, and then once I'm done dooming an Animal Crossing, then I can Mana-ing.
Makes sense. Tom, thank you as always for your questions. We appreciate it. Now on to our final email from Mr. J. Gelsomino.
Oh.
Drew and Carl, what is your favorite / most entertaining virus story in comics or movies?
Ooh.
I think you kind of got to go Outbreak.
I was going to say Philadelphia, Carl.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Bad joke. I'm sorry. It was there.
Well, I mean, it is a virus story.
It is. Didn't mean to be dark there, but,
They're real dark.
Yeah. Anyway. That's a good question. The X-Men have had several virus stories, have they not?
Probably.
And for as like the Legacy virus and things like that, and they're memorable, but I don't know that they're that great. So we have to get into the movies, I guess, and 28 Days Later is pretty great. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't really have one. If you want to bring games into it, I can get into games and tell you, like the Resident Evil series is, up to a point.
Yeah,
anyway.
With the exception of the Resident Evil series, zombies have just never been really my bag. So as far as movies go, I got to go Outbreak. I mean, come on, you're giving me Cuba Gooding Jr. and a monkey.
Sure.
How are we going to go wrong with that?
Did he sexually harass that monkey? I hope not.
He did not.
Oh, well, okay. Do we know that though?
You're thinking of Kevin Spacey.
No, I'm thinking of Cuba Gooding.
And Cuba Gooding as no one, not. Oh, jeez. Okay. All right. Fine. Drew.
Hard times, man. Hard times.
Yeah. When will we be able to New Japan again in an arena?
Oh.
It's going to be a while.
Well, I'm choosing to be, no, I'm not going to be cynical about this. I'm going to be positive, and I'm going to will this to happen. We will be together again in August at Madison Square Garden for New Japan. It will happen.
All right.
I know that's unlikely right now. That's how it feels, but it's gonna happen. I say right now on March 20th.
You're giving yourself some good leeway.
Yeah, I know, but I want it to happen. So I want it to.
Hey man,
August.
Listen,
August, Madison Square Garden, New Japan, Legacy or Dynasty. It's gonna be great.
Listen, China's on the rebound from this thing. They haven't had any new cases. So this thing definitely has a cycle that's going to go through. So we just got to, like we said, we got to ride this wave.
I really hope we can be on a faster trajectory and that life can get back to normal. But it's looking tough right now. But I'm choosing to try and be positive and say August, New Japan, Madison Square Garden. We're going to be there. It's going to be amazing. Yeah.
All right. So then he says, Carl, how are you enjoying your work from home thus far? Seeing as I've had a quarter of a day of actual work and home stuff, it's all right. Miss the office. Miss seeing, the people's shining faces, smiling faces, frantically stressed out faces. Yeah. Miss having a cup of coffee with coworkers and whatnot. So, yeah, I've never been one for work at home. Julie has always been much more of a work at home person than me. I prefer to go out and be amongst the people. I'm a people person, Drew.
You are.
I enjoy the people.
Good for you.
All right. One of them has
my stance on people has already been disclosed.
Well established and flushed out. All right, Jay, thank you so much for your email. Everyone, thanks for contributing. So let's get to the heart of this matter.
Yes.
We are beginning our deep dive into the Star Wars films, doing them in order of release. So this will be our episode that focuses on Star Wars, the original, later to be known as Episode 4, A New Hope. And kind of we really, the best way, and again, we've said that, we don't want this to be a review series. We don't want this to be like a verbal history series, because those things have been really done to death. There's going to be aspects of that in our conversations and what we decide to do, but it's not going to be the sole focus. So what I want to start with is I want to start at the beginning and more our beginnings with the story than the beginnings of the story itself. So, Drew, let me ask you this. What are your earliest memories of Star Wars?
So I've thought about this a lot, and I've got two very vivid memories of Star Wars, at large. And the first one, and I don't know that it's the earliest one. I don't know. They're memories, so they're deep. But I was definitely very young, 5, 6. It's hard to really, I maybe younger. I don't remember. But I was at I don't remember where I was. I think I was at my aunt and uncle's house with my cousin, who I spent time with. And she's still we're very close. We were young, And The Empire Strikes Back actually was on, and it was the Vader Luke duel scene, and I had no idea what I was seeing. And the part where Vader pulls the debris or the whatever, he pulls that piece off the wall, and Luke turns around and cuts it in half with the lightsaber. And I was like, as a kid, you're just like, what is this? And my uncle was like, he was a little more hip to Star Wars than I was. Although it's funny because if I were to talk to him now about it, I think he wouldn't even have a clue. He's more of a Lord of the Rings guy. But at the time, he was like, he said the lightsaber can cut through anything or something to that effect. He basically said it's so powerful it can cut through anything. And I was like, whoa. And then the Luke, I am your father scene happens. And, okay, whatever this is, this is pretty wild. And I remember that. I don't remember how old I was. I don't remember anything, the context of it, or if I had seen any more of the movie at that point. I don't remember. I just remember that particular sequence of events. Then the other early Star Wars memory I have, and this one, dude, I don't even know where I was. I want to say I was at some kind of gathering, at a place. So not like a family party, but an event of some kind of gathering at some place. But there was a TV somewhere in this place, and it was the scene in A New Hope when they're in the cantina and Obi-Wan cuts off dude's arm. Yeah. And I was like, whoa, what is this? And I was very young. I know that for a fact. And those were my earliest Star Wars memories. And then from that point, I just know that I was making my mom rent the trilogy from whatever video store happened to be open and had them in stock, or going to the library and taking them out from the library, or going to my friend's house who owned all three of the original VHS releases of the original trilogy. And I just, like many people who might be listening to this, I watched those movies nonstop until I knew every intricacy of them inside and out. And that was a key influence on me to this day.
All right. So for me, my earliest memories are playing with the toys on the living room floor with my father. Just kind of playing with, Chewbacca and Han Solo and the Millennium Falcon, and just different, doing different things and whatnot. I didn't remember the movies specifically at that point. I think this probably was around Empire. I have memories of seeing Empire in the theaters.
Wow.
Now I've been told that I was taken to a viewing of Star Wars when it was originally released.
Wow.
Because it came out in May of 1977. I was born in December of 1977, and films, as you know, ran a lot longer back then.
They did.
So my parents have told me that, one night we were just going stir crazy. We needed to get out of the house. Couldn't find a sitter. It was a later showing. They just took me with them. And apparently I did not, fuss much during the film. So if what we have studied about brains is true, that memory is somewhere in there. I just can't access it. So I've been told that I was at an original showing of Star Wars when it first came out, but my earliest memories are of the toys. My first theater memory is of seeing Empire Strikes Back at a drive-in. But it is something that, like I mentioned, we talked about this on our last episode. It's really something that, when you think about it, is one of our oldest relationships, aside from our parents, is Star Wars. I know for me, that's true. They're my parents and they're Star Wars. The two things, when I reach back in my earliest memories, those are the two things that are there and that are prominent. So, and I guess looking at the original where it all started for us, like, in a nutshell, as we're obviously going to explore this concept throughout this series, why do you think this story has endured for as long as it has? It sounds third generation of fans right now. It has a pop cultural footprint that is in the argument for most impactful pop culture property of all time. What do you feel is the essence of what has kept it going for all these years?
Well, without getting too hung up on critiquing what came later, it really comes back to the originals. I'm sorry, but it does, and in their timelessness in a way. When they came out, they looked and sounded like nothing else, and they set a standard for what film, sci-fi and fantasy, sci-fantasy, whatever, however you want to kind of classify it. It set this bar that resonates to this day, and it was so well realized that it really felt like something that could exist in a way. Like, that, was it out there and weird? Yeah, but it just felt real, in a way that nothing did. And to this day, that tone is still there. And you watch them, and it's that lived in feel, and it's really a true, authentic thing. It's so well realized in its own universe. And the stories of the originals are very simple, believe it or not, and open-ended enough where your imagination can take it into any number of directions, and really invest you more, because, not because necessarily you want to know the answers to the, not necessarily the questions, but you hear terms kind of thrown out there in those original movies. In A New Hope, you hear this thing called the Clone Wars just casually dropped, and it doesn't really matter what that is. It's a cool term, and your brain goes, "Oh, what is that?" And there's a history, and there's like this, again, that lived in mythology that's all there, and it really just captures the imagination and keeps you interested, while the characters themselves you find endearing and you want to see them succeed, despite them being fairly two-dimensional and archetypical. It doesn't really matter. You still want them to succeed, and you care about them and their journey, and that endures. It really does. So it's simple yet complex, but the complexities aren't necessarily important. What's important is the way the movie engages your imagination and gives you characters to root for in this world. And I think that's why it endures. Obviously, things have evolved so much in that time, and a lot of those things that were left to the imagination have been kind of filled in, and I don't know if that's good or bad, but Star Wars endures regardless, so who am I to say, I guess. But for me, and this goes for any property, to be honest with you, the more you fill in those blanks and the more you take away what was once mysterious, the less interesting the thing kind of becomes. So you could also, insert comic book character here, like Wolverine or whatever. So I think it hits that sweet spot. It's mysterious, yet straightforward, and it leaves a lot to your imagination, yet it's totally well realized, and it feels like it's all coherent and laid out.
Right. No, I agree with that, and I think I've always said that there is a magic to Star Wars,
mm-hmm.
and that magic is at its most potent when wielded by children, because at the end of the day, that's kind of what it is. It's a film for kids. Like Lucas has said that numerous times, but that is what it kind of is at the end of the day. And it's found, its first generations of fans were primarily the kids who gave it this life and made it this phenomenon back in 1977. And I think that as those kids grew and had families of their own, that it really started to become a generational story. Like so many fantasies and fairy tales have done in the past that have been passed down from generation to generation, and each generation kind of puts their own spin and interpretation on it. With Star Wars, because it's film and it's set in stone for the most part. We're going to get to how that changed a little bit later. That what those little things like you were mentioning, like Obi-Wan dropping the line about the Clone Wars, that is leaving something there for interpretation as to what that can possibly mean. I think you touched on a couple of things that people tend to forget about Star Wars, in that it is as groundbreaking as it was for its time. It is by no means an original story. It is very much cobbled together different aspects of film lore, film nostalgia, and definitely reflects what influenced Lucas and others at the time of its creation. So like you look at the opening sequence, arguably one of the greatest opening sequences in film history. You just hit the ground running, and this thing is happening, and you're immediately thrust into it. No setup at all. There's this battle happening. Go. But you look at the structure of that, the one ship chasing the other, and that's old Errol Flynn black and white pirate films. Two ships volleying back and forth at each other. You go to Mos Eisley Cantina. You look at Mos Eisley Cantina, and that's just Rick's Cafe American from Casablanca. And you can draw these comparisons throughout the entire film, really throughout the entire trilogy. But that's okay, because again, generational interpretation. This was Lucas's interpretation of these classic stories that have been passed down from generation to generation. And I think it's because of that generational storytelling, which is one of the key things that makes it endure for as long as it has. And I mentioned the magic of Star Wars, and I think that magic is most potent in the original film. Like, yes, you have moments throughout Empire and Jedi where that magic really, takes off and kind of spreads its wings. But like the moments in the original film that really capture you, those essential Star Wars moments, are the ones that kind of stick with you regardless of what generation of fan you are.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just speaking for me, I think a lot of the big moments for me are in Empire, but I mean, without A New Hope, there is no Empire. So it's
right.
We'll have that conversation when we get to Empire and the way that it really carries the torch forward and pays off in dividends, everything in A New Hope. But A New Hope establishes this whole universe, and it is magical. And definitely, if you're a child, like you said, man, like it there's just so much there, and it's so well realized that if through the eyes of a child, it sucks you right in. I mean, it's like it's made for you. It is made for your child brain to just consume and run wild with.
Right. And I'm one of the things I'd be really curious to know is like what was kind of like the percentage of fans that really jumped on board hard after the original release in 7/7? Like, what were the age demographics beyond that of kids?
It did so much box office, dude. I have to imagine that it really did cater to all audiences.
Well, I mean, it was such an event.
Sure.
And the way films were distributed was so differently back then that, like, it's kind of, the modern equivalent you can draw as Marvel films. You have all these people going to Marvel films who have never picked up a comic book in their life, but they recognize these characters and the story as something that is entertaining and enjoyable to them, and a narrative that they want to follow to its conclusion. And so it's something I've always been really curious about. Like, what was the beyond the kid age? What was the portion of people who really jumped on board with Star Wars when it was initially released? Another interesting thing, like I think there's the two key things that people kind of forget about the original film. The first one that I mentioned, that it's not original storytelling. Second is that after you have that incredible beginning, the pace just kind of comes to almost a screeching halt.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because at the time of release,
until they get to the Death Star.
Yeah, at the time of release, Star Wars was heralded as being a very fast movie. Very fast. Oh yeah, it's very, very fast. A lot. Dude, that just goes to show how movies have changed, because right. The pace gets slowed considerably after the opening battle. I mean, and you're left with, think about it. There's that whole stretch where your only characters of note are two robots, one of which is a garbage can on wheels, and Jawas, who are just little robe dudes with light bulb eyes who speak in a totally different language. And that's like 20 minutes of the film. It's like, what is this?
And it's funny because, like, growing up, my favorite scene from the original film was always, you're all clear, kid. Han Solo shows up. That climax. As I'm older, I find that my favorite scene has become the binary sunset scene.
Oh, of course. We're adults now, so
because like the you're all clear, kid scene. That's kind of like, that's your first drink. You don't know what you're drinking. You think Coors Light is a delicacy. You're not educated yet, but as you kind of get older, that binary sunset scene, just the music, the cinematography of it, what is going to come for this character. It just is like, it's that really, really fine wine that you just kind of take your time with.
Well, it has so many layers to it too, because if you're a young person and you're in any sort of situation where you want to get out from under your parents' thumb, which we all do when we're young, we all dream of what does the future hold? And that Twin Sunset scene, dude, is all of that encapsulated. So that will speak directly to the adolescent youth that are longing for some kind of freedom, some kind of future. You don't know what, but you know that you're trying to stretch your wings and become your own person. And as an adult, that scene, it has a different twinge to it. The original meaning, obviously, as I just relayed is still there, but it's also a bit, there's some melancholy to it as an adult where it's like, yeah, remember when you felt that way, and think about where your life is now, and, is it where you want to be? I mean, I certainly hope all of us are where we want to be, but, with that lens of retrospect, it takes on a new meaning, for sure.
Yeah, it's just like something that like I found as a kid was more or less a throwaway scene for me. But again, as we mentioned, as you get older, just it hits that much harder.
And I think this is a good part. This is a good part to mention. The music is critical in that scene, and that also it's critical to the whole franchise. I should have probably said something about that. Like, dude, sci-fi movies in that time, they probably had some hokey, synth scores or whatever.
Discotheque, synthy, and
doing John Williams doing the traditional score and having such memorable, classic themes. It sells that's the thing. You're being presented with this very weird, outlandish stuff, and it looks and feels like nothing you've ever seen before. But this music grounds it in a emotion that you are definitely familiar with, and it just completes the whole package.
Right. And just like even to say, like, you hear those certain themes and those chords. I mean, you can even just hear a couple notes and A, instantly know what it is, and then B, just be brought back to that emotion, to those moments where these scenes spoke to you.
It's the power. It's the power of music, dude. I'm very. Music is at the forefront of my mind all the time, and the Star Wars, the original trilogy specifically, the themes in those movies, Williams masterfully relayed exactly how you should feel about every theme he wrote and where they're inserted in the movie. They are cued in specifically to tell you how to feel, and it works 100 times out of 100. You like it's just human nature. You hear whatever he put down, and oh, that's longing. That's the Twin Sunset scene again. The music, it is longing for more. Luke is looking at those twin suns, and with that sound, exactly how he feels. He wants to be anywhere but where he is, and he's looking at that horizon with melancholy, and it sells it completely. The fanfare, like all of it. Music is a very powerful thing, and
and like especially with the direction of emotion, like it's tough. Like when you think about films today, and we've discussed about this with the Marvel films, and this is like one thing where they're kind of seemingly a lot of times very generic, is that the music is kind of blatantly telling you, the score is blatantly telling you what you should be feeling in that moment. Where with the Marvel films, it feels very systematic and I don't want to say mass produced, but I don't really have a better term. But with the Star Wars films, it felt like an art form.
The only real, the Marvel stuff is very machine-like in the way that it just kind of goes about its business. And
there are some exceptions. It's not all like that.
It's not all like but you know what? I'll go ahead and say, like, outside of, it's all largely the same, air quotes. The one big success they've had, though, is that Avengers theme. That thing just sells. But I also think that it proved itself over time, because I don't know that the big Avengers theme was that great in the first movie, but by the time Endgame came out, and when it hits, and the moments when it hits, it hits you with everything, and I think that's partially familiarity. But outside of that, like, I couldn't tell you what the theme to like Thor was or whatever, or even Captain America. I don't know. But that Avengers theme, I know, and I'll get emotional thinking about it when I just think about, like, Avengers Assemble and the theme hits and the portals open. I'm like, oh my God, I'm a mess.
Yeah, and it's just with Star Wars, we have multiple of those.
Oh yeah.
Moments. I cannot hear Leia's theme and not get a little misty-eyed. Obviously, because we unfortunately don't have Carrie Fisher with us anymore, and just everything that actress brought to that role and what that character has meant to me as part of this larger world throughout my entire life. It's when you hear that theme, it just kind of triggers all those emotions. The music of Star Wars is so linked to emotions, more so than I think most other music in my life. But again, this is kind of coming from a lay person who does not create music, nor do I hear music in the same way that you do, or someone who creates music hears it.
No, but you recognize that music gives you those emotions, and that's a testament to its greatness. I think the best music is the stuff that me, a more musical inclined person, and you, a less so one, can both agree, like, that right there makes me feel this way. You might not know why, but you know that it does. I could tell you why, but I could also just as easily say I could tell you why, but I also recognize, like, it's not an accident that it makes you feel that way. Put it that way.
Right.
And that is very hard to do. And I say that as someone who has been involved in music and studied music for most of my life. A lot of guys can play very elaborately and technically, and very few of them can put that to use to make you truly feel something, and that is important.
No, it really is. I think looking again at that slow portion of the film, there's the binary sunset scene, which we've been discussing. The other scene that really is a really special moment, and that is when Luke and Obi-Wan are talking in Obi-Wan's hut. And that moment where he gives Luke Anakin's lightsaber and Luke ignites it for the first time. I think that moment is very symbolic of all of us. And it's not, obviously it is not intentionally symbolic, but I think it's very symbolic of the moment where we all discover Star Wars.
Yeah, that's fair.
The ignition of that lightsaber, and like and we've discussed a couple times in passing the new kind of animated shorts they do for Star Wars, where it's kind of more style, like they use the audio from the films to kind of convey some stuff, but the animation is much more stylized. And they've done that scene, and when Luke just ignites that lightsaber, it's a massive flash and wind flowing over him, and like, yeah, that's not what's on the film, but that's kind of what we all feel and saw in our minds when that happened. That realization of the magic wand of that world.
Yeah, that's a good analogy for it. Actually, it is like it's like a magic wand.
Yeah, and just like you get a real glimpse into the depth that this story is capable of with what Obi-Wan is saying to Luke. And yeah, you can look back and be like, well, Obi-Wan wasn't completely honest with Luke.
I don't want to get into all that because that gets into a lot of, well, there's a lot to be said about revisionist history and whatnot. But at the moment of that film, taking only A New Hope into account, that is the eye-opening moment of revelation of all this stuff, and you take it all at face value. And
you get to understand there's a history here,
right,
that happened before this film started,
right,
and a history that we don't get to see yet. We didn't know that at the time, but whatnot. But it's really the first inkling that there's a deeper world here to be explored.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, that mention of the Clone Wars, like it gets your brain kind of firing. Like, whoa, what was that? Obi-Wan, relaying like, oh, your father was the best star pilot in the galaxy. Like, oh wow, okay. And the Alec Guinness, give it up for a guy who hated the material. When he's,
and he really hated it.
That's hey, fair enough. But when that guy says like he was a good friend, like you feel it. You
believe it.
You believe it. Yeah. And again, we that good friendship that we heard about didn't necessarily get shown on screen later on. But we're not going to talk about that right now. But when Guinness delivers it, you believe it, and he delivers it with the weariness and the emotion of a man who lived it, and you trust and believe what he's saying. So you can imagine those two as friends. You can imagine whatever antics they got up to and whatnot.
Right.
And like I said, as a kid, it just sets your brain on fire, and you think about all that.
Yeah, and especially it's very easy to forget like how deep the bench is on Star Wars, especially the three original films. Yeah, you've got Harrison Ford, Mark Hamill, and Carrie Fisher, and obviously we know what became of that. But like Alec Guinness and Peter Cushing in the original, I always lamented that Tarkin died in the first film. I always wanted to see more of that character because he was just so fantastic.
It's the leads were all totally unknown, so getting Peter Cushing and Alec Guinness was like it gave the film some credibility.
Yeah,
but it also
it was kind of like getting John Travolta when he was making Pulp Fiction.
I don't know about that.
Because I don't think either one of those guys were really working a lot at the time Star Wars was being made. I might be wrong. It's possible. It happens from time to time.
Well, Peter Cushing had been doing a lot of Hammer. He did a lot of the Hammer horror films in the 70s.
Right.
So I mean, he was a known quantity. He was a known character actor. I'm not
right. What I'm saying is like they're not. These guys are not like on demand box office bankable.
Fair enough.
You could say it's the lightsaber metrics of Star Wars. Lucas was hiring runs. He wasn't just hiring. So we look at Star Wars and leading up to 97. We have three films to work with, and I think one of the contributing factors to what we got post 97 is that we only had three films for so long, and people watch them over and over again, and over time familiarity sense, and then you want to know what are those things that you don't know. You want to know what are those things that you've been hearing about and different sources, role-playing game books and whatnot are being recognized as canon. So the fandom at large starts to want more. And in 97, we kind of start to get more with the special editions. Now, the special editions, as you all know, Lucas goes back and first up cleans up the prints. They were very deteriorated at that point. I think we can all agree that that was a good thing to do. Cleans up the prints, cleans up the visual, cleans up the audio. So really great there. And then he decides to go back and redo a lot of the visual effects and add some stuff in. So
yeah, so begins the revisionist history.
Right, and I fall on both sides of the special editions. I'm an apologist, but at the same time, I'm also like these. My problem is that they are our only option currently, our only legitimate option, I should say, currently for the films. I'm totally okay, especially because Lucas had very specific shots in mind that he wanted to get, and time and budget just didn't allow for those shots. And I understand that. And, that's part of the magic of what made it originally so great, is that even though you didn't get necessarily what you wanted, you still got something that had the impact that it had. So he goes back and he redoes a lot of the visual effects. The two biggest points are Mos Eisley in the beginning and the Death Star battle at the end, with little things here and there thrown in. Part of me understands it. Yeah, you have the ability to go back and kind of finally get those shots that you wanted, and that's fine. You are the artist that created this as part of not the sole artist, but kind of the driving force behind it. And you decide you want to do this. You have the ability to do it. That's fine. You did it. It's out there. My problem is that, again, it's the only version we're able to have. We're not able to have the original theatrical cuts. So, trying to be as objective as possible, Drew, what did you like? What did you like about the special editions?
We're speaking specifically to A New Hope, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Let's handle each of these individually. The quality of life improvements are nice. And I think that's a theme that I'll just in general always be okay with. That is cleaning up the print, cleaning up the audio. Okay, good. Those are good things. Making the thing, taking the original thing and making it as good as it can possibly be in its original form, I'm all for. Would
you say like polishing up some of the effects that were noticeably not working the way they were intended to, i.e. the lightsabers and the Death Star battle?
I don't know that they really did that with the lightsaber. I mean, when I think about the lightsaber cleanup, I don't. There's two things that stick out in my mind in A New Hope. One is the scene where Luke first ignites it, and there's a giant jump cut when the blade comes out. Right. That's still in there to this day. They didn't get the jump out. So what's the point of doing anything if you can't fix that? Because I couldn't tell you outside of color grading, which I never really cared about in the original cut. They didn't fix that much with the lightsabers. And the other thing I think about is the scene, and I think this maybe has been fixed to varying degrees, but I know in the special edition as it was in 97, it wasn't. The scene when Obi-Wan is holding his saber at such an angle in his duel with Vader where you can see the effect isn't there. It's like the blade is, right. The stunt blade is there, and you can see it.
It's like in the moments where the blade is almost pointing directly at the camera.
Correct, yeah. And I remember thinking, well, if they fix that, cool. And I remember in 97, they didn't fix that. It was still there. And it's like, okay, you had one job.
Yeah.
So, if you can't do that, then what's the point, really? The lightsaber or the Death Star thing, the original trench run is pretty much, I mean, in the special edition, outside of the approach, when they show all the ships coming out of hyperspace or taking off from Yavin, I should say, that big pan around from the front to the back of their ships and whatnot, that was all done in CG. Whatever, they kept the rest of it the same.
Right. Like
so
there's some there's some additional dog fighting thrown in there.
It's just bells and whistles. I don't know that it.
Yeah.
As a kid, now again, eyes of a child and whatnot. As a kid, you think that it's look at it, look how amazing. But now I'm looking back at it and I'm just like, this doesn't add anything. It just doesn't. You really. The only thing that I'll maybe concede is improved is with the scene of the X-Wings departing the hangar going into space. I know in the original cut you see like the rebel troop up in the perch or whatever, and you just kind of see stuff like,
dots of light.
Very primitive, like dots of light kind of shooting out. And then in the special edition, obviously, you see the X-Wings taking off and leaving the hangar bay. Okay, I'll give you that. But the rest, I don't know. It's superficial window dressing that really didn't need to be there. Because the film did such a good job of already giving you what you needed. I don't need it spelled out any more than you've already done. I get it.
Like, obviously, especially when you look at the movement of the ships from Star Wars to Empire, how the change was so drastic and how much the technology advanced. Like, Han boasting in Star Wars that he knows some maneuvers that will shake the Star Destroyer. And to quote the Family Guy parody, he lists lazily to the left as was his maneuver. And in Empire, you've got like full on, space dogfighting, Falcon flying through the asteroid fields we come to know it. So you definitely see the progression in technology. So I'm okay with some of the scenes where they kind of make the ships move a little better. I think the one thing that's a big sticking point with all the fans is obviously all the stuff that was done in Mos Eisley. It just doesn't service the story. It doesn't, I'm watching this again just the other day, and in Mos Eisley, you've got all these, granted, I understand Lucas wanting to say, okay, this is more what I saw this spaceport to be. And that's fine. If you want to throw that stuff in there, great. But just use some basic understanding of shooting a film is that you don't have things constantly walking in front of the camera as you're shot.
Yeah, the dewback that obstructs the whole frame.
Director. Yeah, I am by no means a professional director, but this is things that happen in blooper reels of other films.
Yeah.
And you're putting it in there as a feature. But I like how there was more added to it. You see it as an actual busy spaceport.
The thing is, I had no beef with the way it was presented originally. It was fine. I got the gist. It's a seedy, place to be, and the original did that perfectly. I didn't need the excess stuff. I didn't need the goofy comedy robot punching the other robot. Why is that there? Do we need that? No.
Want to hear something funny? You'll love this. You'll love this because I know how much you dislike the special editions. So I'm watching this the other day, right? And I just recently, got a new 4K television, and I was watching off Disney Plus app, and Disney Plus upscales the Star Wars films to 4K. And the stuff that really looks good is all the original stuff. And the stuff that really doesn't look great anymore is all the 97 stuff.
Go figure.
Like that scene of that robot punching a little droid, it just in 4K just does not look right.
I want justice for Wolfman, by the way. They took him out. I want him back.
I get that. I do not disagree at all. So, but of this, the two biggest sticking points are the Jabba scene and Han shooting first.
Yeah. You know, dude.
The Jabba scene was cool to see the first time I saw it in the special edition because we had always known that this scene was out there. We'd always known that Jabba was intended to be in Star Wars, but Lucas just ran out of money. So they put it back in there, and more as I've watched these years go by, I'm like, this scene just is not good.
No.
Because it's basically a replay of everything we just learned in the scene with Han and Greedo.
Exactly. Now, and okay, exactly. And let me elaborate on that. You're exactly right. It's redundant because everything in the Jabba scene was already relayed in the Greedo scene in terms of information, who owes what to who and what. Han's motivations, basically, are just reiterated verbatim, so completely superfluous. And added to that, our point of view character is who? Who are we, the audience, supposed to be basically seeing this film through?
Luke.
Correct. When we first see the Millennium Falcon in the original cut, when do we see it? The original cut.
When Luke first sees it.
Correct. And what does he say?
What a piece of junk.
Exactly. That is our reaction. We are supposed to go like, oh God, what kind of folly did they get themselves into? In the special edition, the first time you see the Millennium Falcon is in the Jabba scene, which is inserted before Luke sees the Millennium Falcon. You see it with Han and a terrible, I don't care how many versions they do, a terrible CGI Jabba. And Han stepping on his tail or what, which, come on, no.
It just doesn't work, and ultimately it's done to put Boba Fett in there.
Yeah.
Which is just a terrible moment of fourth wall breaking.
Especially considering that, man, there's a lot to be said here, but I think so much of the folly of Star Wars in the later years, the 90s onward, it falls on the fact, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it, I don't think George understood what people fell in love with and why about Star Wars. I think he superficially understood it and steered into the mythos in weird ways that he thought people would like, but he missed the real underlying reason why people liked it. So that Boba Fett inclusion, it's like, hey, people really like Boba Fett. It's like, yeah, but you kind of punked him out hard, George. Maybe just leave it as, I don't know. Like, so much of it just stems from George not understanding his own creation, I think. And that's weird to say because he created it. But I say this as an artist. Once you release something, it's kind of no longer yours. At that point, you're kind of at the mercy of what people are then taking from it. And especially over a long enough time, the time that Star Wars was released in theaters to the special edition was 20 years. And in 20 years, your intent in 1977 doesn't really matter anymore in 1997 when the audience has grown up with it and taken it unto themselves to interpret the thing. It kind of doesn't belong to you anymore at that point. And no creator wants to be told that, but I say this as a creator of something, you kind of have to understand why something has resonated, and it's out of your hands at that point. And to fight it is kind of folly. I think it's misguided. You kind of have to just understand why the thing resonates and maybe be grateful for it, and don't try and tell people that they're wrong or color their perceptions of it after that much time.
Right. No, I get that, and I don't disagree. I think the other, obviously, the other scene that sticks out that has become a cultural moment in and of itself is Han shooting first.
Han,
that was done. And again, this is an example of Lucas kind of probably not understanding his own story structure. In the original cut, Han shoots first.
Correction, Carl. Han shoots only.
Yes, Han shoots only, takes down Greedo in flat-out cold blood.
Yep.
And that moment is so key to this character's journey because it establishes him as where he is starting out from.
Right, exactly.
You know, this is a guy who, if it served his best interest, would gun down Obi-Wan, Luke, and the droids and not give it a second thought.
Now, in fairness, I never took issue with it because he was being held at gunpoint by Greedo. So, you know, right. It is what it is. I don't know why Lucas felt the need to like soften the blow by making it some kind of, you know, hackneyed duel or whatever. Like it's not. Yeah, that's not what's going on here.
He didn't want Han to be a cold-blooded killer, and I think he failed to understand that Han needed to be a cold-blooded killer in that point, so we could see where this character goes.
Yeah, because
by not only the end of the first film, by the end of the trilogy.
Yeah, which, you know, to be fair, in the first movie there was no such, you know, foresight for that. But even in the context of the first film, you're dealing with a guy who is, like you said, he would do that to save himself, without a second thought. But that scene adds to that character. You know what he's all about up front. So when he comes back later on, it's that much more surprising that, hey, oh my God, Han didn't just take off selfishly. He's back to help Luke. You know, it all serves the larger picture. His character has an actual arc. To be fair, Luke doesn't really have an arc. Okay? He's a farm boy longing to get off the farm. Spoilers, he gets off the farm. Like, yeah. That's not really an arc. Han has an arc. He starts in one place and ends at a completely different place. And can I just say that I don't think Han, I really don't, I'm sure he does, but I'm going to say most Star Wars fans probably don't realize Harrison Ford is the unsung hero of the whole original trilogy, in that this whole fantastical world that we're dealing with is very fantastical, and we can't, you know, you and I, we don't have a frame of reference for it.
One might go so far to say phantasmagorical.
Wow. The Phantasmagorical Menace?
That works better.
That comes later, I guess. But you know who helps us understand all this crazy stuff? Han Solo, Harrison Ford, the straightest of straight men in the history of cinema. He is the straight man. He is the most, like, realistic person we can relate to in the whole thing. Because he's just like this guy. He's just this cool guy.
Yeah.
He's not talking about Empire. I mean, he mentions the Empire or whatever, but like, he's not talking about Jedi wizardry and or whatever. He's just cool. And, you know, he's, you know,
like, what are you swinging the sword around for? I got a blaster right here to end the fight much quicker.
Yeah. And, you know, when Obi-Wan tries to do the mind trick on him, Han totally no-sells it. He's just like, he laughs it off. Like, what is this, some kind of local trouble? You know, he doesn't care. He's cool. And he is the straightest of straight men. And he no-sells all of it. and by extension, we the audience get some kind of perspective on all of this stuff. We have a straight man character to relate to. Luke is Luke we relate to because he's our point of view character and we want him to, succeed and whatnot. But Han is like most like us. He's the unsung hero of the whole original trilogy.
Yeah, and I mean each character really has their moments throughout the film,
Sure.
We'd be remiss if we didn't mention Leia.
Oh, Leia's awesome.
I mean, we all fell in love with Princess Leia. That was the first woman we ever loved was Princess Leia, and just such a groundbreaking example of a strong female character in a time where there just weren't any.
Well, Ripley was there too, man.
Was Ripley? When did Alien come out?
77, I think. 78.
I think it was like 78 or 79. But you would still like close enough to be part of that. But just in a time where there were no strong female characters, here comes Princess Leia. Anything but a damsel in distress.
Right. Despite the princess moniker, which, if you're into fantasy films or Disney films, the princess, like you said, the damsel in distress, whose function is basically to be captured and just wait to be saved. Leia is not that. Is she captured? Yeah. But is she feisty as hell despite all that? Oh, yeah. And then once she gets a blaster in her hand, she kind of saves everyone's bacon several times.
Yeah. Leia's kind of the person who was, and this is probably a terrible metaphor here, but she's the person who's just about to order a pizza, but her friends just happen to show up with the pizza. Like, you knew she was going to get out of that situation on her own power, most likely. But, Han and Luke showing up just happens to be fortuitous.
I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah. So, and again, she is one of the things that is so key to why this story has stuck with us for so long and why so many people, myself included, had such an emotional reaction to her passing. Yes, Carrie Fisher's body of work is undeniable. She's an accomplished author, actress. She's done so many things, but the thing she will be remembered for the most is Princess Leia, because what that character meant to so many of us. To lose her earlier than we probably should have was just so heartbreaking for so many of us that even to this day when she shows up on a screen in one of the newer films, you can't help but hear a sniffle here and there in the audience, especially coming from my seat. Because it's tough not to know that for the majority, everyone else is still here, but we don't have her anymore.
Yeah, Leia's great, man. She takes charge. And what's amazing is how much ground is really laid in that first movie. So many of our memories are colored by Empire and Jedi, but they really just extended what was there. Leia is every bit the commander, the capable leader, the take charge person that she is in the other two movies. She's every bit of that in A New Hope.
Right. Yeah, it's just such an incredible character. So as we get ready to wrap this up, I just want to talk about, lastly, obviously, Star Wars was monumental for so many things, one of which being merchandising. Merchandising, where the real money from the movie is made. Drew, what were some of your favorite pieces of Star Wars merchandise?
I'll be honest. You and I differ in that you had many a toy, and I did not. Star Wars toys. You're also a little old. You're also a little bit older than me, so there's that to be contended with as well. I did not have many Star Wars toys. Now, I do have memories of Star Wars toys being in stores, and memories of friends, and I say that tentatively because I don't remember them very well. So how friendly were we? But kids I was around when I was very young who had Star Wars action figures. But for the most part, man, in the 80s when I was growing up, there wasn't a lot of Star Wars merchandise. Star Wars was like this awesome thing that was cherished by, the people that loved it, but its pop cultural presence definitely wasn't really there for a period of time in my childhood.
Yeah, 85 to 90, I think, like 95.
Yeah, there was there was a good run there.
It was a good 10 years where Lucas just kind of shut it down.
Right. But those of us that were into it were still super into it, Right. So I honestly couldn't tell you my favorite piece of Star Wars merchandise. I don't remember. I really don't. I wish I did, but no, nothing's coming to me. I remember, like I said, I remember the toys, but I didn't own any. I certainly didn't play with them with any frequency.
Yeah, I think my favorite stuff was probably, as far as the toys go, probably the X-Wing and the TIE Fighter.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, being able to fly around and kind of reenact those scenes.
Iconic.
Yeah, but I think the TIE Fighter had like the exploding wings coming off. It was just so great. As far as my overall favorite product from the original film, still to this day has to be the original Star Wars arcade game.
Oh, yeah.
Vector.
Now that
graphics.
I remember.
Just to this day, I will play that thing at the drop of a hat, and I'll blow the Death Star up like 3-4 times before I get tired of it. The game in and of itself can be started and completed in about 3 minutes, maybe less. But just, oh God, the way it kind of put you in the moment of that Death Star battle.
With audio.
With audio. I think it might have been the first game to use audio from an actual film in it.
It's possible. It's very possible. That I do. I do remember that vividly. Full cockpit version. They had it at the Thruway Mall arcade, and my dad would take me there occasionally, and I would play it there. And I was actually pretty good at it. I do remember people like crowding around the machine to watch me play it, and I was young, dude, and I was really good at it. That I do remember. That arcade machine.
So, interesting question. How many times do you think we've blown up the Death Star?
Across all media, or in video games?
Across all video games. How many times do you think we blew up the Death Star?
Dozens for me, for sure.
I've got to be in the hundreds. Because that arcade machine was at 7-Eleven, and oh God, any chance I got, just went up 7-Eleven and just kept going.
All I could think is that picture of that stormtrooper with his head in his hands. I had friends in that Death Star.
Oh man, that's hilarious. All right, Drew.
Hey, you know what's funny? You're about to wrap it up. You know what we haven't discussed at all. And
what's that?
And I think this is telling. We really haven't mentioned Vader.
Oh, well, again, this isn't meant to be like a review.
No, I know, but I just find it interesting and, again, telling that we discussed A New Hope and our deepest memories and ties to it, and neither of us really brought up Darth Vader.
That's true. I can't deny that, but at the same time, I think if we wanted to launch into Vader, we'd do it easily another 45 minutes. And that's just from this film.
I'm not.
Obviously, the character hits his stride in Empire.
I'm not so sure we could elaborate that hard in this film, given what we know about him. And I think that's kind of something that's going to come back up later.
Well, he definitely, as the kids are saying today, he got a glow up in Empire.
Yes,
so
yes, he did.
I think he is best left for Empire. But Drew, taking our first steps into a larger world.
We sure have.
This has been really fun. I'm glad you wanted to do this with us. So, folks, by all means, let us know what you have thought of this. Share with us your memories of Star Wars. I love hearing other people's memories of Star Wars. Share with us your memories. Ask us some questions. Contact us. Talk to us. We really want to hear from you. Interaction with each other right now is so important considering what we're all going through. It's important to stay connected in any way we can. And if you want to talk to us, if you want to reach out to the show, you can do so at the following locations. You can follow us on Twitter at Devils Do Pod. You can go to facebook.com/DevilsDoPod and like our page. You can email us at thedevilsdopod@gmail.com, or you can find all these resources available to you at our website at thedevilsdopodcast.com. I guess things come
you okay there, buddy?
I'm okay. Thedevilsdopodcast.com. I had a sneeze that decided not to happen.
Can I ask you a question?
What's that?
Since things have been escalating, with every sneeze, cough, or potential blowing of the nose in the last week, have you thought to yourself, "Oh God, is this it?"
I got that corona.
I'm not gonna lie. That's happened to me a couple times.
It can't be denied. It's there. But yeah, talk to us. We want to hear from you guys. Drew, any last thoughts?
No. I hope everyone's okay out there, and again, like I said earlier, please do your part to get us over this. Wash your hands. Don't go out unless you have to, and encourage others to do the same. And together we will get through this. I have 2 incredible video games awaiting me right now, and I'm very excited to play them.
And I have an incredible wife waiting for me to come.
Oh yeah,
hang
that
out,
too.
watch some funny stuff, as I'm sure my son hopefully is in bed by now. We appreciate you all listening to us, and given the current situation we're all in, given what we've been discussing, what we'll be discussing in the future, I feel there is no better closing than may the Force be with you all.